Good morning. Welcome to another MWC Short. I'm Karen Bowman from the content team, and I'm joined this morning by Sam Evans, who is a partner with Delta Partners. Welcome, Sam.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us. And you were due to take part in the session within the Industry X theme, focusing on the relationship between cloud, enterprises, and the edge.
Correct. And I think that was going to be a fascinating session, both in terms of obviously the speakers, Karen, yourself, and the GSMA had brought together, but also the topics. I think we're in a really interesting time for how network innovation can impact telcos and their enterprise opportunities, the competitive dynamics between telcos, cloud providers, network vendors, and the enterprises themselves. I think there was a lot to discuss, and sadly we didn't get that chance. But maybe in LA there'll be a chance later in the year.
I hope so. Let's dive straight into some questions, though, just to get to the heart of some of the discussion points that we were going to go through within the session. So firstly, Sam, I want to ask you how network innovation is impacting telcos' enterprise strategies or opportunities.
Yeah, look, I think it's fundamentally transformational in my mind. And why is this? I think the playing field in which the telco operates, competes, offers services has fundamentally changed. So why? Firstly, it's enabling new services. If we think about cloud, we think about edge, we think about the emergence of 5G. What telcos, or let's say network providers, can offer to their customers is different. And that's going to cause a couple of impacts. First, it's going to change where the value lies, right? If I'm a telco, I'm used to selling connectivity, right? I can sell fixed line connectivity, I can sell SIMs. But over time, the share of that value goes down. In a sense, the connectivity becomes less visible as part of that. And so I have to be able to find a way to be relevant in services that come over the top. I think that's the first thing. And the second is it changes the competitive dynamics. So, if we're looking at take edge, right? It's probably $150 billion opportunity that will emerge over the next 10 years. Now, that's going to be captured in part by the telcos. It's going to be the cloud providers. There'll be new service providers coming on the top. And so I think if you're the enterprise responsible, or the responsible for the enterprise business unit of a telco, now is probably the time where you've never been probably more scared and more excited, because the business that you have to build is not the business that you have built historically. Just selling connections is not going to cut it anymore.
Okay, fantastic. And we've heard a lot about edge, and it's a really huge topic, or would have been a huge topic in Barcelona this year. To what extent do you think edge is a topic for network teams, or is this something that's much more strategic?
So I think with edge, I don't think the penny's dropped or the light bulb hasn't gone on yet in enough CEOs' minds. This could be a fundamental rebalancing of power, if you will, across the value chain, or within that network provider, global cloud provider dynamic. And I think if they haven't worked out yet how strategic it should be absolutely top of their agenda to be briefed and really, really understand that. Because I think the first thing is, there's a question of where actually is the edge. We talk about edge, but this is really about where does the compute happen, right? And there's views about, can we get it onto the device, onto the premise, onto the telco edge? And depending on where you really set the edge, and depending who you work with, be it one of the cloud providers like Amazon, that is going to be a very strategic decision that's going to influence your future business. I think that's one thing why it's very strategic. But going beyond edge into the world of also 5G, when you can combine the two, I think CEOs also really have to look at this trend of private networks. Now, private networks is a fantastic opportunity to win enterprise business as 5G is deployed. But if you look at the trend of private networks, a very large percentage of them are actually being deployed by the enterprises themselves. And so there is this world of 5G and edge going forward, where actually the network provider isn't necessarily going to be the network provider. And so on both the dynamic of how do I collaborate with the cloud provider, and also how do I stick my flag in the ground in the private networks, these are two decision points or milestones that telcos have to win yes or yes, right, to sustain their relevance. And that's not just a a network manager discussion. That's a proper CEO, CFO discussion as well.
Okay, fantastic. And based on some of the network innovations that we're seeing, how would you say that customer demands are evolving?
Sure. I mean, customers are learning. I think the learning part is key of the value that these technologies can bring to them. I think I've been surprised that we haven't seen yet the real customer push into telcos. But I think that's partly this education process. And so telcos have that window of opportunity to educate. But what we're seeing overall as customers are becoming educated is, firstly, whilst the connectivity is evolving and becoming better and better, its visibility is also reducing, right? So this concept of connectivity is invisible. It has to work, but it's not necessarily where the premium value is allocated. Where customers allocate value is solutions. Now, the traditional mindset of the telcos historically been, let me build that in-house, right? Let me build a proprietary solution. I'll be the full stack provider. I don't think that cuts it going forward. What customers want is the best of the best. And in a world where, for example, migrating from a cloud to an edge environment, if I've been using as a customer AWS in cloud, I probably still want to use AWS on the edge. I'm not going to change my mindset. And so telcos have to partner. And this isn't paying lip service, maybe as happened historically, saying, okay, we have a partner. It's becoming proper partnership factories where you can really, in the mind of the customer, the telco can be the master service integrator, right? But you have to bring the best in class solutions, because at the end of the day, it's the solutions that the enterprises are wanting, either to innovate on the front end with their customers or drive efficiencies in their own internal processes. And that's not connectivity. Connectivity is the enabler. As I said, it has to be there, yes or yes, but it's not where you're going to capture the value. And the risk for a telco in this space is, if they don't get a handle on partnerships and being that integrator and therefore the front end with the customer, they're at a risk of the service provider being the front end to the customer and then falling back into a wholesale model where they're purely wholesaling the connectivity. And that can accelerate the commoditization of the connectivity, but it also disintermediates the telco from the end user.
Okay, so you've talked about the telcos capturing value there, but what are the key success factors? How are they going to actually capture that value?
So the first is, and maybe it sounds a little bit contradictory to what I was just saying, but they have to win the network play. Okay, so they need to be convincing customers that if they're looking at private networks, they are a better partner even to deploy that network than a corporate going direct themselves. I think that's for the infrastructure is the right to play for the telco. Without the infrastructure, they have nothing on top, and they have that infrastructure advantage. Where the cloud providers have a service advantage, the telcos have the infra advantage, but they need to do that at scale. So I was really pleased to see the initiative that the GSMA has just announced, the Open Platform project with Telefonica and several other carriers looking at edge network interconnection. Because one of the key values of in the enterprise space of connectivity has always been that seamless global interoperability. And just as service providers might migrate their service provision environment to the edge, that concept of interconnection has to be extended to the edge from traditional GSM networks. So I think that's fantastic to see, and a real step in the right direction. That will obviously need commercial models on top, but that can come. The second point is build partnerships at scale. It's not a case of we offer one partner, but we actually really want you to use our proprietary solutions. Be a proper partnership factory. As I said, become that master service integrator. I think that's critical. And then as we look at 5G, and we're seeing more and more auctions happening, we're seeing more and more networks come online in the enterprise space, you have to win that private network opportunity. That's your first step, signaling to your broader customer base that you are relevant in 5G. And whilst, on a, let's say, enterprise device upgrades, right, you can attack that business once every 18 months. There is a single moment in which, for large enterprises, you can become their private network provider. And that's going to really be, the first cab off the rank. And I think telcos' ability to win that, or their success in winning that opportunity, will be a good indication for their longer term ability to capture the 5G opportunity.
Okay, excellent. Sam, thank you so much for joining us this morning remotely. Thanks for taking part in this MWC short. And as you say, I hope to see you at another of our events very soon.
Brilliant. Thank you, Karen.